We enter the second half of the season in a series where we see drivers skirmish for the podium, develop for the big leagues of GTEs and GT3s, and leave no love lost. After yet another weekend of racing, today we welcome you to Road America, located near Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, in the United States of America. Today it hosts the 7th round of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series, with all coverage on your beloved Apex Racing TV. The circuit details are up on screen. It's a 6.5 kilometer circuit, 4 miles depending on your units of choice for those of you who use that illustrious Imperial system. 14 turns around the racetrack. There are plenty of overtaking spots. You can see on the bottom left is turn number 1, turn 5 as well through the middle part of the lap, and of course Canada Corner down at the top right of the track map at turn 12. There's 48 meters of elevation changer at Road America. It's quite a challenge for these drivers today, but it will challenge them for a total of 45 minutes of racing. There'll be 1 mandatory pit stop required, and we'll give you a bit of a rundown of the grid and all the other events or rules of notice for today's event in just a moment's time. Jonathan Simon in the commentary booth alongside Weihan Chan, Samuli Kumo in production behind the scenes. And Weihan, we talk about Road America. I just spoke about those overtaking spots into turn 1, possibly turn 5. This circuit is, as we head to the grid now, is that there's so much opportunity for drafting and staying within the driver in front.
Absolutely. Hey everyone, I think Road America is just one of those more classic circuits, more high-speed characteristic circuits where you just have more tendency to go to do more high-speed slipstream racing, not so technical on the car. So we will see a lot of straight line action as the race unfolds.
100%. This is your grid for today's event. These are your GTEs up on screen. So it's a Ferrari on pole of Justin Wallace, and then 3 Porsches behind with Matt Morris, David Miller, and Rob Gray heading the first couple of rows. Stephen Lattimore will start from 5th, so let's see what he could do from that 5th position. Lee Vandenberge will start from 8th, and we'll see whether or not he can provide some good results later on in today's event. We'll cycle through the rest of the grid. A couple notable names, of course, down the order. Hayden Benefield will start on the 8th row in 16th. Up ahead in 13th is Brady McHugh for Riot Sim Racing. So starting down the order is Brady McHugh, and it's always a challenge, isn't it, here, and is the just starting down the order. It is a rolling start, but just I guess you could say the run into turn 5 on this opening lap is going to be quite entertaining for those drivers outside the top 10.
Sure, I do find that perhaps with the grid size that we have here for us tonight, around 30 strong, despite the large size of this circuit, I think there is still going to be some concertina effect as we go through some parts of the circuit, especially like what you just mentioned, turn 5 of the circuit.
Yeah, turn 5 is quite a challenge one. After the Marine Sweep is turn 5. That was your GT3 grid up on screen that you just saw, highlighted in light blue. So looking at our overlays today on Apex Racing TV, and if you're new to the broadcast, welcome. We have 2 classes of cars, your GTEs and GT3s. Obviously, Matt Allison will start on pole. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen. So keep on track with that order. Alexander Newton will start in 2nd in the Mercedes. Then we have Rob Crisdale and Andrew Malcolm on the 2nd row. Scott Gamble in the Audi, the one of 2 Audis out there, Weihan, here in the race today. Will start from 6th in class, but I think he's the dark horse today. He's a driver that sparks up some entertainment. And at a racetrack like this, with plenty of opportunity to overtake, I'm quite excited to see how he goes.
Sure, it does look like we have quite a fairly good variety of different car manufacturers here, with all 4 GTE manufacturers present, as well as the majority of the GT3s present. I think it is we will kind of see the pros and cons of each car, what each car offers different drivers, and how it plays out in the racing.
100%. What's your favorite corner on this circuit?
Oh, it has to be the
carousel.
kink.
Oh, the kink.
Yeah. Okay, it's one of those corners where you're told not to take it too wide, but sometimes when push comes to shove, it's something that we'd all have to settle for if we come to find ourselves in situations where we find ourselves abreast with few cars by our side.
Well, this is the carousel that your GTE field is currently making their way through. And then Weihan's favorite corner is coming up at the end of this shot after the bridge here. And there you can see the right-hander of the kink where the pace car is just about to make their way through. You know, I've ended up in the trees there over the barriers once.
Oh man, it must have been quite a nasty incident you had.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't deliberate. I think Tyson Meyer as well, a famous Twitch streamer for iRacing, also ended up in the trees. I've seen a clip of him there. But anyway, racing action will begin. So as we know, 45 minutes of racing action, 1 mandatory pit stop required. Now, you cannot make that mandatory pit stop within the first couple of laps in this event. You have to wait until your 3rd lap. And not the leader's 3rd lap, but your own 3rd lap. But if you do sustain damage on the opening lap, you are allowed to enter the pit lane. But you cannot use that pit stop as your mandatory stop here today. So let's see how they go here. The GTE field is coming through the final corners. Hope you enjoy this event here live Sunday night in Australia. Glad to see all the Australians and Kiwis, don't forget, racing out here in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT3 Development League. It is the driver in pole position of Justin Wallace for Race on Oz, who will pedal away and begin racing action for 45 minutes soon enough as we go green from Road America. Very stagnant start, isn't it, here, Weihan, for your GTEs? But look at the 5th place position there. That looks like Kenneth Latter and Stephen Lattimore in a nice little battle.
Absolutely a fantastic start to Road America, as we've just seen some cars taking it 3 wide through first, and now they make their way through the 2nd corner. Some cars off wide. It does look like the Ford GT of Stephen Bartholomew. Now we have a look at the GT3s as they make their way through.
Yeah, look at the GT3s. Is that Matt Allison with? That's a humongous lead. Goodness gracious. And look at Scott Gamble in the Audi. Nice little switch back there. Who's that down the order as well who's made a mistake is, well, Scott Gamble's field with a great move. It looks like that's Andrew Malcolm in the Race on Oz car. But what a nice battle there it was heading into turn 3. I told you Scott Gamble was on a pursuit here for the podium positions.
Sure does look like they have as they make their way through this left-hander on the lead-up to this rather high-speed blind Corvette corner. A train of, 5-6 GT cars here led by this Scott Gamble. Is currently sitting 3rd in the GT.
Here they are through the middle part of the lap, heading towards the carousel for the first time. This is Martin Casey we're watching on screen. We now ride on board with a Delta Force racing driver. Through the difficult right-hander, he progresses for the first time. Then the kick coming up, the dirty air is going to be insane, isn't it?
Sure, you just listen to them lifting ever so slightly in order to make the way through the corner unscathed. Because you see, once you have a bit of slipstream, you do have to be a bit more conscious of the speed that you're carrying through that corner. Around Canada they come. Perfect line through there by Martin Casey as he currently sits 5th in class behind.
Yeah, he does. Well, we've now switched towards is this your GTEs? Yes, it is. Look at the 2 Porsches here up ahead. That looks like Rob Gray. This is Rob Gray on screen. And Rob Gray is for Flying Giraffe Racing in that lovely pink livery. How can we forget him? He's been sporting that livery all season. And again, at the end of the first lap, he's ahead of Stephen Lattimore here. Stephen Lattimore hasn't been able to make a position up on the first lap. But look at this now from Lattimore up the inside, heading in to turn 5 for the 2nd time. This could be a nice pass in the Ferrari, and yes it is, as he forces Rob Gray off the racetrack.
Mad Dog in P3 leads this multi-way battle, I think, kind of like a freight train through what was turn 5 and now to turn 6 and 7. This high-speed right-hander, rather flat-out right-hander, I think. Battling racing looks relatively clean at this point. Of course, with drivers being ever so competitive, it's going to be a good.
Sure, Rob Gray now through the carousel. He's under attack here from Chris Whitaker in P9. Rob Gray has lost an immense amount of positions this lap. Let's see where this FT1 Motorsport car speeds in through the ever-thrilling kink. God, look how fast the cars are traveling through the kink. It's insane, kicking up some grass on the exit too. And after this lap, of course, Wei-Han, they can make their first pit stop, or their first mandatory stop of the race. So we'll see if anybody takes it in the opening laps, which will be rare.
Chris Whitaker currently sitting in 9th as he goes on a battle for P8, currently taken by Rob Gray in P8. Dave Clements in 10th. And now we ride on the gearbox camera of Rob Gray as he leads the cars behind him up this extra long uphill run down the main street.
The slipstream here from Whitaker. He's creeping in closer and closer in the Ferrari. It's not going to be enough as they use the cones as brake markers heading into turn 1. What a run out of turn 1 does Chris Whitaker have. Oh, he's almost forced off into the grass. He is. That causes an incident. Rob Gray into the wall, and that Porsche's day is done. Oh, the race stewards are surely going to look at that way, Han. We'll look at a replay soon enough, but he just didn't leave any room for Chris Whitaker around the outside.
That looked like quite a nasty incursion over there because, yes, having a look at the replay now, Rob Gray. And what it does seem like,
replay be up on screen.
just...
There it is. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I had some issues there, but yeah, it looked like he just got hit, Wei-Han. Well, he didn't leave any room, I guess.
Yeah, would seem like so. Now, Rob Gray currently down to P15 as I think he's going to try his best to make his way back up.
Yeah, for sure. And I do believe these drivers have a couple of fast repairs available, which are ever so important. This is Chris Whitaker now, who's losing a lot of time. He might have some suspension damage or something to that Ferrari. Think. Looks like he's got damage. I don't know. Does he have damage? He looks quick now on the straights. No, he definitely has damage, doesn't he? He's losing a lot of time.
Here comes the Mach 1 BMW of Pat Gallo, who's just doing his run down the kink. And it does look like contact and out wide. Huge incident here at Canada.
Oh, and Chris Whitaker's just somehow found his way in through the middle of it. Aiden Benefield's going to be careful. He's parked in the middle of the racetrack, and is that a 3-point turn, I think? I'm not sure. Here's Chris Whitaker now surely into the pit lane. Rob Gray continues. Does Rob Gray continue with no hood to the car? That is quite weird right there. But the incident is under investigation by the stewards, Wei-Han, and that always makes you a little bit nervous as a driver heading into the next few laps.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Of course, you know, live stewarding is not an easy task, and of course, fair play by the stewards for responding to live incidents like these. Rob Gray currently sitting in P12. I think he's made a couple of positions up from where he used to be. Maybe owing to the incident just now where 3 of the cars have gone into the...
This is back to your GT3s now. This is Martin Casey on screen. By the way, can we update you? Matt Allison is untouched in the lead. Currently leads by a few seconds. But this is Scott Campbell in 3rd. Behind him is Grant Matterford, Martin Casey, who we were just discussing about the Mercedes and BMW alongside each other, heading in to the Marine Sweep. Then into turn 5 here, the left-hander. And Matterford remains in P4. So brilliant defensive driving. And in turn 6, so difficult is this uphill left-hander. It's so easy to lose the rear end, isn't it, through there?
Sure, I think that's the point where, you know, the weight of your car shifts as you go over the crest. But what's also as tricky is that corner coming right, that's right after that where you enter the corner near full throttle. As the cars make their way into the carousel, which is currently this, what looks like a 3-4-way battle pack currently led by Grant Matterford. I think they are 4th A-class.
So Matterford's 4th in class. Ahead of him, Scott Gamble. There's Scott Gamble screaming through the kink. That is one of the most brilliant camera shots we've gotten for you today through the kink here. Samuli Kumo in production behind the scenes, working the cameras. And then this is Canada corner. Whoa, that was Martin Casey in the braking zone, getting close. And the Delta Force racing driver wants to get a move on, doesn't he? He wants to make this move ASAP. It's almost 10 minutes into the event.
Sure it does. That was a close move by both cars. Of course, props to both of them for making that safe and not having an incident to come out of that. They make their way through Road America straight as they kind of rely on the slipstream of one another. This three-way battle pack, as you know, that Mercedes tried to make that move down the inside, but didn't quite make it. So they make their way through turn 2.
Here they are now. Matterford goes on the defensive. And I think that's going to give Martin Casey a good run. Don't forget, of course, Chris Uding behind the privateer driver in the Mercedes is listed as a privateer anyway on our data sheets. That may be, he may have found a team, of course. We've had that a couple of times this season through the Marine sweep yet another time. And this is Martin Casey up the inside of Grant Matterford. And finally, Casey into 4th.
They make their way through the Corvette corner once again before now coming to this right-hander. I'm not sure how long this battle is going to last, but it does look like they are going to be kind of stuck in this order for some time until one of the cars decide to make.
There they go. Would you pit now? Is it too early to pit at this stage of the race to avoid the traffic, or would you rather remain in the draft?
I think for the purposes of kind of keeping a pace up, I would still stay out for much longer, I guess. But of course, once the pit window opens up, there'll be about time where the drivers should make their move to conserve, or rather to carry forward their pace. Justin Wallace in the race lead with Matt Morris in P2. Of course, these two drivers lead the rest of the field by a gap of what looks like 4 full seconds.
Yeah, brilliant lead by these two, but they don't want to with each other because Stephen Lutmore and co behind will reel them in. 2/10 the gap now. It'll be 1/10 as they head to the Marine sweep, heading into the turn 5 braking zone. How about Matt Morris for the lead? He's a bit too far back. I got too excited there, didn't I? I thought he was looking good for the lead, but he's a country mile behind for the moment. And through turn 6 yet again. Morris looks good, doesn't he? Though in the Porsche, he looks confident.
Yeah, well, you can't ever be too far away to make a move. Of course, Matt is an extremely competitive driver that I understand, and he is putting up quite a good show for us here up on this pointy end of the field. Now, I'm not sure if they're beginning to pull a much larger gap ahead of Stephen Latimer and co, but the gap still sits around 4 seconds as they make their way through this section of the circuit.
And here's Stephen Latimer. He's in the 3rd position, and he's broken away, hasn't he, from David Miller behind for Redback Racing. His teammate Stephen Latimer of Justin Wallace leads the race. His other teammate of Kenneth Latter is in the 5th position, so he's in the middle of his own race on Oz Sandwich. There's David Miller behind, under attack from the Ferrari of Kenneth Latter. Wei-Han, you're experienced in the GTEs. Which is your favorite car to drive?
I have, to be honest, I don't exactly have a kind of a real preference. I do enjoy driving the Ferrari, because it is quite a smooth car to drive. The Porsche also, perhaps just because of the sound and also, its cornering abilities. The thing is, I'm not exactly familiar with the car performance. I just enjoy driving each car for what they are. Now, Mad Dog, David Miller leads Kenneth into turn 1 and turn 2.
Yeah, here he is. This is Kenneth Latter heading into turn 3. Where is Matt Morris? I want to see this for the moment. He's within a couple of tenths, I'm pretty sure, of Wallace. Want to see if he can possibly make the pass. Here they are on screen, and Morris had a peek there up the inside, but not enough. I feel like next lap, Wei-Han, he'll be able to make that move into the lead for the first time.
Sure, I think they are getting closer and closer each lap. And if this continues, I think in the next lap, like you just said, we will see some moves unfold. That gap ahead of Stephen Lattimore sits at 4.5 seconds at this point, so I think it is a half a second increment from the previous lap.
Don't forget as well to check out our sponsors, Century Batteries Lismore, and of course, Race Management Service at rms55.com.au. They sponsor the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development League or Series, depending how you like to call it, and is broadcasted here live on Apex Racing TV. This is your lead battle overall and for your GTE. So it is Justin Wallace ahead of Matt Morris. Now, this time round on the main straight, Morris looks a little closer. He's about 3-4 tenths behind heading into turn 14. Going to be a nice run heading into the first corner, and I think a good chance here for Matt Morris to claim the lead.
Oh, this is going to be showtime, as I think this is where Matt Morris may be able to close his gap ever so slightly more than previous laps. So I think a move should be imminent. Riding on the bumper camera of Matt Morris as we observe how he sits in the slipstream of Race Honor's Justin Wallace, who currently leads the race. Coming through turn 3, and for this long... So
close, isn't he? Have a listen to him. Hopefully make this move into turn 5. Let's hear. Oh, that was close. Heading into the braking zone of turn 5. Morris for the lead here around the outside. Oh, he turned in. He had to turn out of it. And it was Justin Wallace who had that inside line and just was able to defend the first position quite well.
He was close. He was so close, but I think Justin Wallace was just able to edge out ever so slightly more than Matt Morris could. So they make their way through this part of the circuit once again, as we now observe Paul Wood and Dave Clements fighting for P9. This is at the other end of the middle of, I believe, the GTE grid.
Yep, it is. And there was a bit of argy-bargy, wasn't there? Some contact between the two, at least when we switched to him. The Mach 1 Esports driver of Clements. Getting his angry elbows quite on display there. And he's in this battle for 8th, as you can see, with Brady McHugh ahead of him for Riot Sim Racing. Paul Wood behind for Oz Sim Racers. They're going to speed and scream to Canada corner through the forests of Wisconsin, the United States of America. Obviously, virtually here. We are 1/3 through the event so far. And whilst it seems like your GT3s of Matt Allison has a comfortable advantage, the GTE lead battle is not going to change anytime soon. Have a look at Kenneth Latter in the 4th position. He's someone who's incredibly close here to making a move on the main straight.
It's going to be Kenneth on, I think, the outside, the red car. As he tried to make the move, but Stephen would still hold on. Oh no, sorry, that's Kenneth and Dean. Sorry, got the names wrong there. As they make their way through turn.
Yeah, there's Dean Ross behind in the Ferrari. Dean Ross listed as the privateer there. Behind here, the driver of Kenneth Latter, who made that brilliant move there for the 4th position. Now, has to be said.
Down into Moraine Street. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's right. Heading into turn 5, as you said. I think he's the lead. Where is it? Where are they right now? 3 seconds to the podium positions. Those podium positions are all set. Are they going to have to make the move on?
Yeah, I would think so. Currently looking at Martin Casey, 3rd in class, who sits behind Scott Gamble in the Audi. So it is both, I guess, a battle for 2nd with, of course, is that Grant Medford in 4th in class, also looking to have a slice of this pie as they make their way down into the entry of Moraine Sweep. It's going to be Scott Gamble who still leads this pack of 3 over this corner and up into the next corner.
And Gamble started in 6th, don't forget, for SG1 Racing, named after himself. And he and now is having a brilliant race, but he's got 10 seconds to make up on the race on Oz driver of Matt Allison. Here they head through on towards the carousel. They head through the hurry downs of turn 8. Here's the carousel, turn 9 and 10. And Gamble as will keep a track on the lap times nevertheless, but come pit stop time, this is where I would throw something different in the hat, wouldn't you, Wei-Han? Because I mean, right now you got 10 seconds to make up on the leader. You got to do something different to grab that win.
I would imagine so. Of course, with the pit window opening wider and wider at this point in time, some strategy will come into play as these drivers come to what could be approaching the halfway point.
And so let's see how Casey goes now through the final corner. Let's see if we can ride on board with him for the moment, because he's going to have a good shot. Oh, he goes straight into the pit lane. This is a bumpy braking zone heading into the pit lane. Get our wish of an onboard shot. Perfect, wasn't it? Heading to the cones, and that's something you need to practice.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Martin, of course, creeping into the pits, and of course this means that you will lose positions. But of course, when all the cars begin to pit, positions will begin to equalize. Of course, how much the positions equal. All around goes the Mark 1 Esports car of Dave Clements. I think we missed a little bit of the action that unfolded right prior to this incident. So I think we may have a look.
Yeah, that's Lee Vandenberg. No, Lee Vandenberg, he spun there. So Lee, who had reverse pole last time out at Okayama. Here's the replay up on screen, Wei-Han. Talk us through it. We'll see if Lee is the cause of this incident.
There's Lee on the outside, and I think there just wasn't much space, or it could well be netcode as both cars kind of swept each other across their bumpers. And of course, Lee was the more unfortunate one across that corner. Yeah,
so unfortunately, Vandenberg, Matt Morris pits. So Vandenberg will have to repair that damage in the pit lane. But here is Matt Morris now. So he's thrown something different. And I believe Matt Morris will have to nail this pit stop to claim that lead over Justin Wallace in the first position. Now, I was getting, where's his pit stall? It's going to be at the end of the pit lane here. And again, this is something like you see so many drivers overshoot the stall, and it just comes down to practice and confidence.
Yeah, well, look, the thing, I guess the thing with iRacing is because you don't really have the front jack person there to stop the car for you, so you have to use your own brakes and stop the car by yourself. But of course, it does take practice. GT3 class leader Matt Allison, at least the leader at this time. Not sure if he's made the pit yet.
Hasn't pitted, so Matt Allison continues away. But the interesting thing you can see on the track map is for Matt Morris, not Matt Allison, Matt Morris in your GTEs, he's pitted early and avoided lap traffic. For Justin Wallace, though, he's had to lap a couple of cars there, and look at the clear track Matt Morris has here on the run through the Marine Suite into turn 5 into the braking zone. So this is going to be an immense outlap, and it just means that if he has taken tires, he's going to struggle for tire wear towards the end of the event. But this could undercut for the lead, which is so important.
Sure is. Current class leader is Justin Wallace. Sorry, I can't exactly see if the drivers have made pit moves. As he leads the field and he makes his way through the final corner of the circuit. Well, this is your current rate.
Well, there are the stops on screen. You got your wish. Wallace continues. He doesn't make a stop. Matt Morris, you can see the leading driver who has made a pit stop. Now, he is ahead of 22 seconds on Chris Whitaker, so an immense advantage. We know Chris Whitaker was involved in an incident earlier on. All those drivers behind, I might be wrong with this, Wei-Han, but from Chris Whitaker to every driver behind, I'm pretty sure was involved in an incident that might have caused a pit stop. I'm not sure, as we see the driver of Dean Ross in the pit lane.
Having a look at Chris Whitaker, of course, currently in 10th in class in the GTEs, as it comes upon GT3 traffic, P2 Scott Gamble, P2 in class. So he's going to have to exercise a little bit of patience to make his way past either past a car or around this corner, or perhaps wait for either car to make the move into the pits.
And possibly. Still watching the ever-thrilling Justin Wallace, who's driven splendidly this season and continues to do that here at Road America for round 7. This is the second half of the season. Travel to Silverstone next week in 7 days' time. It'll be Sebring, Suzuka, Virginia International Raceway, that is, and then Road Atlanta. So there's no breaks. It's every 7 days we have a round up until that season finale, Road Atlanta. And see now if Justin Wallace will enter the pit lane anytime soon.
As he makes his way through the final sector of the circuit, let's have a look if he will or will not make the move, or rather the entry into the pit. He does not pit, and he continues to lead the field here as he makes his way along the Road America street. Maybe he's just holding off a little bit because we've only got perhaps around 20 minutes to go here at Road America.
Well, Simile, can we get the track map up? I want to see where how much clean air Justin Wallace has. There it is. Oh, he's got... Who's in P17 in class? It's William Mitchell, who's going to be a lap down. It's a lot of traffic, isn't it, there, Wayhan? So I think another lap he'll get away with. After that, I would enter that pit lane instantly.
Yeah, I think so. Of course, the fact is that, perhaps he's running on slightly worn tires at this time. So if he stays out for a little too longer, I think his lap times may begin to decline by a fair bit.
I think I might have called that too short. He might even catch this bunch of traffic. They're just heading through the hurry downs now. So this is turn 8. This is the hurry downs he's just gone past, Justin Wallace. This is turn 8 now, and then 9 and 10, the carousel. And that traffic's just exiting the carousel. He has to pit this lap round to avoid any time lost. And the question is, where is Matt Morris? Because I'd love to see lap times with Matt Morris. Last lap around, Morris set a 2-minute 0.9. Justin Wallace at 2-minute 0.2. So whether or not Matt Morris, who is listed as number 6 on the track map, doesn't look like he had traffic. It looks like Wallace, with a clean pit stop, will be able to reclaim his lead.
Makes his way through Canada corner and the final part of this circuit again. So I think we can observe once more if he will make the move into the pits. I think it's been the third time we've been making this prediction, and yes, he does, making the filter inwards to the pit lane. Bumpy braking zone, as you mentioned earlier, as it breaks in time for the yellow coat.
I've had some bizarre races here. It's Justin Wallace now. We'll get onto those stories later, but they're funny stories, and they didn't end well. They ended in tears. Hopefully not for Justin Wallace, who will search for his pit bay. We will keep track of Matt Morris and see where he feeds out for the lead. There's Matt Morris on the right. He's the number 6 up on screen. Oh, this is going to be so close right now. Matt Morris, number 6 on screen. Justin Wallace still in the pit lane. Here they go now. Oh, this is going to be close. Speeding through the exit is the driver of Justin Wallace. Where's Matt Morris now? Heading into the first corner. He's a couple of seconds behind. And that means Justin Wallace is, well, at least stays in the first position effectively once Stephen Bartholomew in the Ford makes his first pit stop.
Well-played strategy there, and I think this is going to play in a huge advantage to Justin Wallace. Matt Ellison, leader of the GT3 class, makes his move into the pits as well. Look, I think Race on Oz, the team has been taking, it does seem like they're taking similar pit strategies.
Yeah, certainly teams working together, and that's because sim racing is a team sport, isn't it? You can't, it's not like Formula One where you have to sort of beat your teammate and approach it like, as much as I love Fernando Alonso, he's just alienated teammates over the years. As Matt Allison, your leader in the GT3s, exits the pit lane. thing I noticed in sim racing is the more you work with your team, the better off you're going to be in the long term.
Sure, and I think what we all enjoy in sim racing is the kind of friendships that occur across what is pretty much a virtual world. You don't exactly have to meet one another in person to have such good relationships. Matt Ellison currently second in class in the GTEs. Of course, he sits what looks like quite a huge gap behind a current GT3 class leader, Roy Clark.
Yeah, Roy Clark leading the field away, and Roy Clark I'm just looking at the timing screens, Roy Clark's yet to make a pit stop, so that obviously means that the iRacing Motorsport driver will cycle down the order once he enters the pit lane. He will hand the lead back to Matt Allison, who's driven phenomenally today, hasn't he, Matt Allison? And he's always been quick as Matt Allison. As we see Stephen Bartholomew enter the pit lane in the GTEs, that hands the lead back to Justin Wallace. But Matt Allison, just week after week, this is the point of these development series, is just to, get your front running experience here and then move on to the big leagues later and start to have to fight and earn even more time and find even more tents to improve yourself.
All round goes Hayden Benefield. I think a little bit of a tussle that he had with the GT3 car of Roy Clark was just unfortunate that had to happen at the end of this straight, and this not exactly nice to experience.
A huge incident there, as you can see. Replay up on screen. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it does look like I think what happened was I think the drivers did not happen to leave each other enough room, and they eventually closed in on each other, of course leading to one of them, Roy going into
So, again, Scott Gamble now up on screen, and unfortunate incident there, of course, as well, and apologies. I'm just sorting out a few technical gremlins in the background while this all takes place. But whilst we're watching Scott Gamble, the battle for the lead in your GTEs is heating up again, because Matt Morris is now all over the rear end of Justin Wallace. And it looks like these two drivers are going to continue this fight for yet another lap. I mean, this just gets so much more exciting, doesn't it? Lap after lap. This could be a battle for the lead change, finally, for Matt Morris as he elects for the outside line. Morris. Oh, this is going to be a huge braking battle, and he claims the lead. Oh, I wasn't expecting that at all. Plenty of grip around the outside at turn one, but there's a shot here for Justin Wallace in the second position to reel himself back in the first position. Have a look at Stephen Lattimore behind, of course, as well. His teammate, two Race on Oz cars, chasing the VMMR car of Matt Morris for first position. It looks like they'll remain in formation, possibly heading into turn 5, Wei-Han. But this battle for the win is gonna heat up in the final 10 minutes.
With the remaining quarter of the race to go. Fantastic driving by Matt Morris, and also the P2 and 3 drivers, Justin Wallace and Stephen Latimer, for making this move happen safely. Let's see how spicier this will get as we progress through the next few laps, as they make their way through the carousel. On the lead up to what I think is the most exciting corner of this circuit, the kink. So it's going to be Matt Morris with what is a 5/10 gap ahead of Justin Wallace as they make their way through the kink. Saved a little bit touch of the grass by Stephen Latimer as they now go for the run into Canada corner.
This is going to be interesting. Wallace, well, I mean, has he even, I don't think he has spent a full lap apart from first position, if that makes sense. So he's been in first position for the entirety of the event. Here's Wallace now heading through the final corner, and it looks like he's a bit too far behind. So Wallace is just going to have to try and clear the draft, or at least use the draft of Matt Morris. Matt Morris being smart there, just changing his line, trying to break the toe of Justin Wallace. And this is going to be a lot tougher than I think Justin Wallace expected to reclaim first position.
Matt Morris going on the defensive, as of course he has to hold his race lead from two extremely competitive drivers. A little bit eating the curve a little bit ambitious there as they make the run down this another the second of the three long straights on this circuit. The downhill to Murray's sweep will be Matt Morris leading. As this is Justin gonna make the move to the inside? No, he doesn't. Because the gap's too
Sorry, have a look at Stephen Lattimore behind. Sorry to cut you off there. He looked like he was gonna have getting on the power early. Justin Wallace off into the grass, pushing a little bit too hard here towards the remaining stages of this race. And Stephen Lattimore should have capitalized on that for sure, but he's a bit too far behind now, heading into the hurry downs. And then through the carousel, Matt Morris has at least a half a second's advantage here.
Fantastic driving by these drivers all night long as they make their way through carousel again. Of course, you know, this I think this is where you know the kind of the control of your car, the steering at least, is extremely important to how well you maintain your group. They make their way through this section of the circuit before breaking in for the Canada corner. Right-hander they come, and the average gap between these drivers stand at 0.6 of a second.
It does. And there's not much time remaining in this race right now. About 10 minutes. Well, less than 10 minutes to go, of course. And going wide are the three of them through the final corner. And this is your closest battle on the racetrack. Well, apart from the battle for the final podium position in the GT3s between Scott Gamble and Martin Casey, of course. They're heading through the Turn 5 braking zone now. I don't think your leaders will catch them towards the end of the event. So these will be two clean battles. But nice to see the action coming into play, you know. And last round, Weihan, we had a super sprint format at Okayama. And the second race didn't have as much action as this, as the single race format at Road America, which I'm quite surprised of. I think Okayama was just a difficult place to overtake at.
Yeah, I think Okayama is one of those places where, you know, you just kind of hot lap the circuit and try to keep your car on. Most importantly, try to keep your car on track. Perhaps because the circuit is not exactly the best for you know, the best kind of racing as opposed to here at, oh, what was that? I think that was Robert cutting the kink a little too much there.
A little bit too much to get the off track. But don't think, having a look at the off tracks, not many drivers have them this event, so it's been some clean driving. Even looking at Campbell and Casey through the final corner, Casey looks good, but I think this is going to be a nice opportunity in that BMW to make a move on Scott Gamble, which is rare to see today because Scott Gamble's been the one making the overtakes. Let's have a look here, heading into turn 1.
Martin Casey going closer and closer, inching closer and closer into the Audi of Scott Gamble. Of course, not close enough to make the move through turn 1, down across turn 2 and into turn 3 as they're about to approach now. Scott Gamble leads Martin Casey into this part of the circuit as they prepare for the rundown this stretch.
So they've headed out of turn 3. And turn 4 is somewhere on this straight. It's not really a corner. And then braking earlier is Martin Casey. He seems to be on that brake pedal a little bit earlier than Scott Gamble ahead. So ahead of these two is Robert Crisdale. He looks good in that second position for the GT3s in the Mercedes. And in the first position is the BMW of Matt Allison for the Race on Oz team. He looks untouched all race as Matt Allison. So while that's taking place, this is the battle for the final podium position in GT3s. And if you're just joining us, the only other real battle for important points is for the win overall in the GTEs between Matt Morris, Justin Wallace, and Stephen Lattimore. Had a good race so far, haven't we? I'm almost losing breath.
Yeah, they're not done, are they? Because we've got, what, less than 10 minutes of the race to go. At this point, it gets even more and more contentious as they try to make the best of the race at this point in time. Matt Morris leads the race on odds pair in second and third by an advantage of 9/10 of a second. As they make their way through the kick, Matt is most likely going to clear this on his own. And so does Justin and Steven Latimore. Fantastic line through. Oops, almost dropped my cup there. Fantastic line through the kink as they prepare to break into Canada corner.
Yep, so while that's taking place, let's flick back to Martin Casey in a nice little tussle for the final podium position in GT3s. Casey possibly up the inside. He backs off the throttle at the end of the straight. That's just going to give him the run heading into turn 5 instead. He widens the line for the apex of turn 1. Now into 3 he goes. The thing I'm finding so far, Wei-Han, is that he seems to be braking earlier and then on the throttle earlier. And this gives him this mammoth run on the run down to turn 5. Let's see if he can pull off the move.
This is going to be the battle for the final podium position in the GT3 class. But I'm not too sure if the gap is small enough for Casey to make the move ahead of Scott Gamble. Apparently he didn't, but we now come upon this, what I like to call the Corvette left-hander, as they make their way through here and onto this coming this corner.
So still heading through the Harry Downs. Casey, he doesn't look close, does he? How about, how's Matt Morris going? 2/10 the gap now with Matt Morris and Justin Wallace. It's just under 5 minutes remaining. And, oh, sorry, excuse me, that's Wallace and Lattimore, 2/10 the gap. What am I saying right now? Wallace and Lattimore here heading through the carousel. Now, this is important for Matt Morris here, Wei-Han, because if Wallace and Lattimore start to fight here, the two Ferraris, that's just going to give Matt Morris the win, basically.
Sure, I am a little bit curious as to what strategy they'll take, especially at this point of the race with less than 5 minutes to go. You know, they can decide to battle each other if they decide that they will just settle for second or third for each driver. Or if they're able to push a little further, of course, with the GT3 lap traffic. Oh well, there we go. I think that's a nail on the coffin there with the BMW sandwiched between P1 and 2. This is going to be close as Wallace makes his way through, or rather tries to find a way through the BMW across that corner.
Oh, this is so much traffic. Concrete wall on the right, grass to the left. Virtual spectators, of course, at the same time. This is close now, the battle for P2 between Justin Wallace and Steven Lattimore as they went 3 wide on the main stretch, and Lattimore promotes himself into the second position. He's only got a second and a half, though, for a race win, and he's on a pursuit for that with just a few laps remaining.
Lattimore pulled off a slightly faster 2-minute 1.34 seconds lap time. Yes, 5/10 faster than his teammate. So this might be a sign of a slightly faster pace advantage that Lattimore has ahead of Wallace. But of course, with this much time, this little time left to check the flag, Matt Morris still holds a commanding lead.
A very commanding lead. It's only one hand on the trophy. Motor racing is a complicated sport. If you turn it over, race can be done. Kenneth Latter and Dean Ross also in a nice little battle here. It looks like Dean Ross has been demoted to the 5th position. Kenneth Latter finds himself up into the top 4. So brilliant move there from Kenneth Latter. But let's see if Matt Morris, who started the race from 2nd, can win this one. Justin Wallace, your pole sitter, finds himself now in the 3rd position because Lattimore, who started in 5th, has split the both of them. So while that's taking place, Matt Allison still leads your GT3s comfortably ahead of Robert Crisdale. That's by about 10 seconds. Scott Gamble and Martin Casey are still in a battle. Those two have not swapped positions, and Casey still looking here on the main stretch, Wei-Han, for a pass onto that podium position. I feel like this is deja vu. It is. This is like the 4th time we're watching this.
Oh, it could be. Well, I think it is going to be quite a comfortable advantage that Matt is going to have. Wow, what is this? Battle between Andrew Malcolm and Grant Matterford. They go side by side through turn 2. And along the inside goes Grant Matterford, but is the BMW going to make the comeback move? No, it doesn't seem like so, as Andrew sits in the slipstream down this stretch. Here we go, riding on board the loud BMW of Andrew. As we look at his move down the inside along the entry of Morin's sweep, he comes. Well, I think it's gone a little bit too deep there. Of course, a little bit too much of an entry that he had. And he returns the 5th in class position to Grant Matterford.
Certainly, and nice to see the battles continuing throughout the field. Now, Matt Morris, I believe... Well, this is going to be close to see whether or not this is the second to last lap or the final lap. I believe this will be... Well, next time by should be the second to last lap. It's going to be close. There's about a minute remaining in the race. So Matt Morris here will want this race to end instantly because Stephen Lattimore right now, a 10th faster last time round, is packing the pressure on. And this is always tough, isn't it, as a driver, Wei-Han? When you're in the lead, you've got that comfortable advantage and you put a foot wrong, your day's done.
Sure, Jonathan. I'm probably imagining Matt Morris's heart rate to be up in 200s or something. He's holding this lead that he probably hasn't had all race long. Now, of course, the Race on Us guys have put up a fantastic show for all of us to enjoy. But again, you know, if you're the fastest here, if you know, I think Matt Morris has shown that he is up there, and he currently leads with I guess a minute to go.
So they cross the line, and it looks like...
Oh, what was that?
We had a crash? You hear a crash as well?
Yeah, I think probably someone blew their engine. Perhaps they run into the concrete barriers over here.
So it looks like we will have a couple of laps remaining because Matt Morris crossed the finish line with just a few seconds to go. The time has ticked down to 44:54. So, if I'm not mistaken correctly, Wei-Han, this is the second to last lap of the event. Last lap, excuse me. What am I saying? Oh, what's wrong with me? Oh, these silly Australians these days, I guess.
Kenneth Latter leads Dean Ross. Of course, perhaps a last-minute squeeze for P4 that Dean is, of course, ever so interested in. Yeah, made the way through that Corvette corner and onto this right-hander hurry downs section they come. Kenneth, the last of the Race on Us three-way, there's a 3-car lockout from 2nd to 4th. Dean Ross in 5th, and I think that they're in quite a fairly comfortable position because David Miller sits further back. Matt Morris, your race leader at this time, Jonathan.
Yep, he's coming through the final corners, and he will take a well-earned victory. Lattimore behind is just not enough, isn't it? And whilst I get my timing screen sorted, we confirm this is the final lap. The race will be over, and Matt Morrison will take victory for round 7 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series. What a victory it was for Matt Morris. Earned the move around this corner, turn number 1, around the outside as he passed Justin Wallace for race victory. Wallace ends up in 3rd. We'll look at the results later on because Matt Allison still through the middle part of the lap has quite a moments to go, doesn't he, Wei-Han, to take victory?
Sure he does. Well, look, he has a comfortable lead ahead of the 2nd place GT3 car. Of course, he still has, you know, in actual fact, he still has half. Oh, who's that? Who's gone off track right in front there? What I guess perhaps a back marker there as he comes across the carousel. I think Matt has done extremely well tonight, and if he wins this race, it is going to be an extremely well-deserved win as he makes his way through the kink.
You did well. And Canada corner for Matt Allison. I mean, it's been a boring race, hasn't it, for Matt Allison, because he's driven so well. No on-track action for him. Driving smoothly. And that BMW will take another victory. It almost seems like he just can't get enough of it, does Matt Allison. A little bit wide through the final corner is Matt. He will win the GT3 class and take victory for round 7 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series here from Road America. And he led every single lap from pole position. And that is a grand slam for Matt Allison with the fastest lap of the race, of course. Same time. So brilliant stuff from Matt Allison. And he will be followed by Rob Crisdale in second. Now where's Scott Gamble? Gamble across the line. Just etches ahead of Martin Casey. And finally, at the end of the day here, Wei-Han, Martin Casey ends up off the podium. He had his chances, couldn't capitalize on it.
Absolutely. Well, in the GT3, GTE class, the Race on Us guys put a fantastic show, but sometimes it's just maybe not that enough for the race win, because Matt Morris had what it was required to win the race, and he did just.
Brilliant stuff from him. We will look at your race results in just a moment's time, but we'll have post-race interviews, of course, so don't leave us here from Apex Racing TV. But what a challenge that was at Road America. A nice 45-minute sprint race, Wei-Han. Here are the results on screen right now. And your winner was Matt Morris with that brilliant pass around the outside of turn 1. But Stephen Lattimore, very surprising from Stephen Lattimore, who started from 5th. But your two Race on Oz teammates of Lattimore and Wallace end up on the podium with no race victory to their name. Couple of other notable names throughout the field, of course. Dean Ross and Kenneth Latta had a nice little battle. Kenneth Latta ended up in 4th, 2 tenths ahead of Ross across the line. So that was a very close battle at the end of the race after Latta made that pass into turn 5. But a lot of incidents today, Wei-Han, in your GTEs, which was a bit disappointing to see.
Yeah, I would think so. Well, I guess the outcome was that everyone had a quite an eventful race here at Road America. Well, of course, this circuit being what it is, it always gives us a good.
Most certainly. And you can see the rest of the order on screen at the same time. Aidan Benefield down the order after his incident, 9 laps down. Brady McHugh as well with troubles, ended up 11 laps down at the end of the event. Let's look at your GT3 results now. And there they are up on screen. Race on Oz, though, claimed victory in the GT3 class. One of, seems like, 500 Race on Oz drivers, as Matt Allison claims they'll win by 20 seconds. It felt dominant, and it was. A brilliant race from him. Crisdale ended up in 2nd for JP Simshed and the SG1 sim racing car of Gamble, up 3 positions from his starting spot in the 3rd row, and claimed the final position on the podium. Martin Casey just bridesmaid at the end of the day and ended up off the podium. Grant Matterford in the 5th position. He had a nice race with a lot of action, but only 5th to show for it. And you can see the rest of the finishing order up on screen. So a good race again for your GT3s, Wei-Han. And before we head over to post-race interviews with a few drivers, again, the championship battle continues in the GT Development League, but to me, it's not about the championship, so to speak. It's about just developing your skills and talent. And some of these drivers may not be able to front run in more competitive and a higher I-rating series, but today it's just good to see the likes of Matt Morris and Matt Allison gain that front running time.
Sure, of course. It's always great that series that outside of, I guess, the top series, it's always fantastic that series at this, perhaps around this skill level within the community is present for for drivers to you don't always have to be your best, but you can always enjoy good racing with people of similar pace to yourself, and I think that kind of adds another element to a well-rounded or more fulfilling sim racing experience, which the AMF guys have put up for everyone here tonight to race, to enjoy, and to watch.
For sure. Let's speak to Matt Morris, who was race victor overall in the GTEs. And Matt, I mean, can we talk about your pass around the outside? That has to be one of the passes of your career so far. That was brilliant.
Yeah, a bit of more arse than class, I think. It was yeah, just sent it.
Yeah, awesome move. And I have to say, of course, I mean, not only did you take out one race on Oz Driver, but two of them. Were you expecting that from second on the grid? Did you just not nail it in qualifying? Did you expect yourself to be up on pole with the pace?
Yeah, well, it was so close anyway in qualifying, but I just took it easy on the tyres at the start. That was all. And raced in the second half.
And finally, anybody you'd like to thank for our overall victory? A brilliant result today for yourself and the team.
I just thank the other blokes for having a good race, and the sponsors, BWMR and Trackstar. That's about it.
Awesome. So that is Matt Morris, race victor here today after 45 minutes of action. Thanks again, mate.
No worries, mate.
Hopefully see you next round at Silverstone in just a week's time. Next up, Ayhan, is the driver of... Let's speak to Robert Crisdale first. And he is alongside you, who he finished in P2 in your GT3 class.
Hi, Robert. Of course, oops. I guess he just left.
Did he leave the channel?
I think he did. Was just about to, of course, congratulate him on coming home in second in class.
Well, then let's speak to Stephen Lattimore. Then I'll hand him over to you. We'll see if Lattimore is ready for an interview. And hi, Stephen. Are you there?
Yes, I am, fellas.
Hi, awesome. We just don't want another driver leaving an interview mid-question, so we're just hoping you're ready for it. Wayhan, over to you.
Well, as long as they're not offensive.
Hey, hi, Stephen. Yeah, welcome to the comms channel here. Of course, first of all, congratulations on coming home in P2 in class. Of course, I understand that you begin 5th from the grid and fought your way all the way up to second. Of course, I guess Matt Morris edged yourself and Justin Wallace out to secure the race win. I think all of you guys put up a great show, nonetheless, for all of us. Could you please share with us how the race unfolded from your perspective?
Yeah, well, cheers for first. Yeah, nice steady start. Watch Dave and Rob have a little battle, and then just try to pick them off when I could. I knew I had a bit of pace over them in qualifying. I just couldn't get the lap down. I kept on running into lap cars or other cars on fast laps, so I ended up starting 5th. And then, yeah, it was just tried to do consistent laps, chasing down Justin and Matt. Luckily, in the pit stop, it looked like I jumped or gained a bit of time on both of them, almost like 2 seconds or something like that. And yeah, just sitting there waiting for the opportunity with Matt, and then Matt got in front of Justin when he made a mistake, and then I was sitting there, I was waiting, because he's a teammate, I was waiting to see if he can go back after him before we got up to that back marker, and I just went, nah, I'm going to go for it to chase down Matt.
Understand. Yeah, of course, I'd just like to ask you what your thoughts are for the race next week. I can't exactly remember where we'll go next week, but do you have any of your thoughts, opinions on how the competition would be like for yourself and the guys in your team?
Well, it's Silverstone next week, I believe, the new layout, which will be, if I remember correctly, an Enduro round, I believe. Give me 2 secs, schedule.
You're correct. Yep.
That's correct. Yeah. So last Enduro went really good. Hopefully for me and Justin. Hopefully we can pull it off again. Ken done quite well in that one. He's done also quite well tonight in the GTE. We had Matt over in GT3 dominate, I believe. I'm not too sure. He did. Beautiful. So yeah, hopefully a whole bunch of Race on Oz guys on the podium again, and yeah, we can repeat that next week.
Sure, that's excellent to hear. Now, would you like to give a shout out to anyone that you'd like to?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the boys over at Race on Oz for showing up each week. They put in a mighty effort. Harvey Bay Auto Glass, all the sponsors over at the forum. There's one too many to remember, but yeah, big shout out to Hayden if he's watching, and well done to all the guys who took part tonight who had a stellar run. Sadly, a couple of the boys had not quite a good race, but they'll bounce back next week, and yeah, surely we'll be up there.
Sure, that's great to hear. Hey, thank you so much for your time, and I hope I hope you'll have a good night.
Thank you very much. Yeah, cheers for the broadcast, and cheers for to AMF for putting on the series.
Awesome. And thank you as well for bringing us some brilliant on-track action. Stephen Lattimore, who came home in the second position. We will speak to, finally, race winner, Matt Allison. Matt, can we speak to you now? Did we take you mid-conversation? Apologies for that if we did.
No, you're right. You're right, mate.
So this is Matt Allison, who won, well, I don't say won, dominated your GT3 class. It was that brilliant of an event, wasn't it, for you? Led every lap, got the fastest lap. I think you got a grand slam at the end of the day. It was that dominant.
I knew at the start with the Mercs and the Audis behind me, I had to just go off those opening laps just to try and break the draft. And yeah, and then I saw at one point all the guys second, third, fourth, fifth were having a ding dong battle. So I was like, okay, just keep going and open up that gap. And then I was just able to manage it towards the end. So I was lucky that those guys were having a good battle there.
And I mean, do you think you're going to be untouched come the championship time in the GT3s? Every time we've been broadcasting these races, and you just seem to be a step ahead of the field. And I guess, as I've said so far in these broadcasts, that the development leagues are, it's a good time for you to be leading races and gaining that front running experience. But then for someone like you, you're going to head into a huge strength of field race and find yourself quite poised, you know, because you're able to gain that experience here in the GT3s.
Yeah, with the battling that everyone does, like everyone's really clean with their racing, so you know it comes in very handy when you go into strength of field races, because your racecraft has to be on point in this category. So you know, I'm not worrying about the championship. I'm just worrying about every week to week, and just see what happens. Rock up and have fun.
Yeah, and finally, because you're a race winner, who do you want to thank for your brilliant result today? You finally got and unfortunately, by the way, because your teammates didn't know that you'd, I think Stephen didn't know that you won the race there for 5 minutes or something. But at least you got one race on Oscar in the first position today, which is a good sign to hear.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so just like to thank Harvey Bay Autoglass and Ian up there in Harvey Bay, and also Century Batteries, Lismore and Ryan, and for putting on such an awesome event.
That's
and
it.
also
So
Apex Racing too.
Oh, you legend. Thanks. That is Matt Allison. So Matt came home in the first position and took another victory here in your GT3s. We'll see you next week at Silverstone for sure, Matt. And, have a good race there as well. Next up will be Wei-Han. You're going to speak to Justin Wallace. And he came home, Wei-Han, on the podium. He should have possibly, and this is something we'll discuss with him, should have claimed race victory. He'll be lamenting that for sure.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Thanks, man. Hey, Justin. Yeah, first of all, hope you've been having a good evening racing here at Road America. Congratulations on coming home second here tonight. Of course, I understand that you edged out on the race win, which went to Matt Morris, and of course, probably at around the last parts of the race, you had quite a good battle with your teammate Stephen Lattimore for the second podium position. Now, Justin, could you please share with us the race from your perspective?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, it was a tough race. Matt was pushing me pretty hard that first stint, so I was probably drove a little bit too hard, and had a really good battle with him, and he pitted just before me. Then coming out of the pits, I was the first couple of laps, I really noticed I was struggling with the front end of my car, and realized I'd pushed it probably a bit hard early, and yeah, I just made a few little mistakes after that. Just locked up a few times and let him back in, and then he got in front of me, and it was tough from there. Yeah, just cooked my tires, I think.
I see. Yeah, that it is a little bit unfortunate that that happened to you, but well, I mean, you guys from Racing Matt Morris as well. You guys put on a great show for all of us to enjoy here at Road America. Now, I'd just like to ask you for some thoughts or opinions that you have as we enter Silverstone next week. I understand it is going to be an endurance round. So, what do you think? How would your team, I guess, kind of approach it with that race coming up?
Yeah, looking forward to Silverstone. I haven't done the new layout yet, so yeah, I think from the team perspective, we can just try and get a couple of cars up near the front, and yeah, try and work together and have a good race, I suppose.
All right, that's good to hear. Now, anyone that you'd like to thank?
Oh yeah, I'd like to thank the Harvey Bay Autoglass Race on Oz boys, and you guys over at Apex and AMF for putting on a good series.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Get a good result. P3 should be a win, though. Can we say next time out you'll be gunning for that in Silverstone for sure. So that is Justin Wallace for your Race on Oz team, who ended up in third position here in the GTEs. We will speak finally.
Thanks, guys.
Your driver. Oh, where is Scott Gamble? There he is. Scott Gamble.
Hey, how we
you
doing,
doing,
fellas? Yeah, good. Very good, thank you.
You looked very racy out there today. You looked quite confident, and started from 6th, ended up on the podium. It was a good race for yourself.
Yeah, it was. It was. I was pretty happy. We got a good start, which helped us out. My ex-teammate Martin Casey from behind, he sort of was my wingman for the night. He just sort of stayed there, and it was good.
I was wondering because he sort of seemed to back off the throttle when he could have passed you about 4 times. But was there any? Were you guys discussing that over TeamSpeak or Discord or something, or was it just a nice gesture from him?
It was a nice gesture for him. Like I said, he used to be my teammate from Delta Force Racing, and it was. Yeah, he probably could have put it down the inside a few times for sure, but he backed off and let me have it, which thank you.
I'm savage. If it was my former teammate, I'd take him out and stuff, and as a bit of a laugh, But Martin Casey, very respectful at the end of the day, and it has to be said though, looking back at your result on the podium, is qualifying somewhere you need to sort out? Did you just have a poor qualifying performance today?
Yeah, we've done the best we can in this Aldi. It's on some of these tracks, especially the corners, it just doesn't handle these fixed setups as well as the other cars. So it's a bit of a battle to extract the lap time speed out of it. But that's why I took it at the end of the day, was for the challenge. To give the Aldis some love throughout the field, and it's a good challenge. Trying to match it with the other cars.
Awesome. Anyone else you'd like to thank before we let you go?
No one in particular. I stream tonight as well, so yeah, on SG1 Sim Racing Facebook page.
Awesome.
And that's about it. And yeah, thanks to Martin and you guys for showing. I'll go back and watch it later.
And not on Twitch, are you as well, or just Facebook stream?
Yeah, I am on Twitch, but I'm mainly streaming on Facebook at the moment. So but yeah, it's there. Search it up, have a look.
Awesome. So that is Scott Gamble. We'll see you next week at Silverstone. And he came home on the podium for your GT3 class today. And what an event it was here. Final wrap-ups here, Weihan, is Road America is a good event, but we head over to that race of Silverstone in 7 days' time. And I'm quite looking forward to that. Of course, the new Silverstone, apart from killing my frame rate, it's been a good circuit so far.
Oh, that's great to hear. Well, I think with let's not call it new layout, right? I think because it's been in existence for the past 8-9 years. But of course, with this different layout, I think the characteristics of the circuit has just changed really a fair bit. Instead of, I guess, in the past, you just had these many straights, but yes, with this new layout, you have that right after the first corner, you have the extremely tight section, but you've also gotten yourself an additional long, high-speed stretch. So I'm not too sure if it's going to be much different from the old layout, but of course, with the GT cars in play, it's going to be, well, it is going to be quite interesting.
For sure, and that will be on the 4th of August, next Sunday evening in Australia. Of course, that'll be 8:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss it. That's 10:45 a.m. GMT. It will be for a 90-minute event around Silverstone, the new Silverstone, which will be quite exciting, and it will host round 8 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series live on Apex Racing TV. Thanks to our sponsors today of Century Batteries Lismore and the race management service of RMS55.com.au. Visit ApexRacingTV.com for more information on upcoming broadcasts, of course, at the same time over the next few weeks, months, years, and beyond. And for all you viewers joining us for today's broadcast, you have been awesome as always. From myself, Jonathan Simon, from Wei Han Chan alongside me, Samuli Kumo on production yet again, doing a brilliant job behind the scenes. This has been an Apex Racing TV presentation. We say so long from Road America. We'll see you at Silverstone in a week's time.